This young man was completely bewildered when he found himself waking up in a strange place. After calming down, he felt the place was somewhat familiar. While he was mulling it over, a basin of cold water was suddenly splashed straight onto Sarlin's head. When he turned around, he saw a fat woman reeking of malice. She berated him and ordered him to wash up. Someone would come to take him away later. Sarlin glared at her with a harsh gaze, and as a result, he received a slap. The fat woman yelled, "What's with that look, you little brat? Haven't even grown your feathers yet, and you're trying to defy me!" It was then that Sarlin saw his reflection in a puddle of water. He smiled a smile that gradually lost its humanity. "Oh, so I've returned to when I was 3 years old, Sarlin Cooper, actually reborn." In his previous life, he was a shadow of the Cooper family, along with other shadows. From a young age, they underwent rigorous training from the family murder, arson, espionage, just like their moniker, Shadows. All the clan's clandestine tasks were assigned to them. In return, the family bestowed upon them considerable wealth and supreme glory, so the Shadows willingly served. As an illegitimate child of the family, Sarlan decided to change his destiny of being bullied and hurt. He desperately trained to compensate for his perceived lack of talent and to avoid being looked down upon. He volunteered for campaigns for the family. To complete his orders, he eliminated many enemies and razed numerous strongholds. Finally, in one punitive expedition, he secured victory for the family. He thought the family would welcome him and reward him greatly, but instead he was framed. The new head of the family revealed the truth about the Shadows' existence. From the day they became Shadows, he had cast the Shadow Oath magic on them. "It was all just to deceive you, filthy, foolish lot, ha ha ha!" Finally, Sarlin couldn't control his anger and used all his strength for one last all-in strike. Though his sword managed to touch the family head's shoulder, it was reflected. Despite having mastered the blood magic to reverse the Shadow Oath and reclaim all the abilities Iren had taken from him, his life ended there. Therefore, in this life, Sarlin absolutely would not repeat the same mistakes. Even a hero doing righteous deeds would succumb to hunger. His stomach was already rumbling in protest. It seemed he hadn't eaten for 3 days. Just then a mouse was squeaking nearby. Sarlin decided to eat the mouse to tide himself over. In his past life on the battlefield, mouse meat tasted better than human flesh. He laughed inhumanly, intending to send the unfortunate mouse into his stomach. Suddenly, 2 men entered. They told him that young Master Iren wanted to see him. Without waiting for his consent, the 2 men immediately dragged him away. At this point in his previous life, he had been chosen to become a shadow, but all memories of the selection ceremony had vanished, likely due to the Shadow Oath blood magic being cast on him then. Sarlin smiled calculatingly. But in this life, not a chance. He bit their hands to break free. Those 2 were unlucky to encounter a youth as tenacious as a dog. One threw a punch, but with his small frame and years of fighting experience, Sarlin dodged it. He then drew the man's sword and severed his arm. The other man was scared witless, never expecting this little brat to have such a talent for swordsmanship. This was his chance for revenge. It had arrived. The Shadow Oath was an ancient blood magic. As the master of the oath, by paying the price of a single drop of blood, one could make the target their own shadow. The shadow could not harm its master and would also bear all of the master's injuries. The shadow's growth and abilities would be offered to the master. Because the nature of this magic was too cruel, the Empire had long ago issued a decree to destroy all ancient magic books containing the Shadow Oath and forbid anyone from using it. When Iren learned that his 2 attendants couldn't bring Sarlin, he was furious and berated his subordinate. "You damned fools! Even a stray dog can walk all over you. Does the Cooper family feed you just so you can sit around doing nothing? Only 8 years old, Iren already carried the bloodline of a wicked lineage. He was to be the next heir of the Cooper family. The guard couldn't retaliate, only covering his face and hurriedly apologizing. "Forgive me, young master. It was your subordinate's negligence. Your subordinate's negligence." Iren approached Sarlin and warned, You even dare to touch my people." He ordered his men to lock Sarland in the dungeon. However, the matriarch of the Cooper family and Iron Cooper's mother intervened. She said, "This child has been unmanaged since he was young, so such reckless behavior is normal, but now is not the time to punish him. What's important is the oath ceremony." She reminded her son not to forget what she had instructed him to complete today. With an extremely wicked expression, Irene didn't understand why his mother wanted this lowly, illegitimate child to be his shadow. He thought, "Once I find an opportunity, I will definitely cripple Sarland." Only then did Irene accept her request. Seeing her son obediently comply, the mother smiled with satisfaction. "All right then, mother will take her leave and not disturb our future young family head anymore." She then ordered everyone to disperse, leaving only young Master Iron. The remaining people cast soundproofing spells to ensure no one disturbed her precious son. Iron began to pour holy water and then declared, "From this day forward, all of you below will be members of the Shadow Legion. Swear your oath to the family." Everyone below except Sarland declared in unison, "In the name of the shadows, I swear that in this life we will dedicate our lives to the family. We will entrust everything to the family. The family's command is for the family." Sarland knew what Irene would do next. He pretended to drink it. Instantly, everyone else fainted on the spot. Irene sneered at the idiotic bunch who couldn't even distinguish between a sedative and holy water. Then he drew a knife, cut himself, and let a few drops of his blood fall. The abilities of everyone here would now nourish him, and if he were injured, they would all bear it. Instantly, a red magic circle enveloped everyone. Streams of multicolored power from the boys flowed into Irene. He could feel the power coursing into his body. The Shadow Oath seemed to be successful. He hadn't expected it to be so simple. He then smugly praised himself as a true genius. "I must tell Mother this news quickly." Iron was overjoyed. He turned to leave feeling triumphant, but he couldn't. His body was immobile. Could it be a side effect of the Shadow Oath? He wondered. Something Mother never mentioned. He wailed, "Mother," from behind. Sarland stood up and spoke. "You've always been a brat who likes to hide behind his mother. Unfortunately for you, your mother, not wanting to disturb you from completing the Shadow Oath, has already cast a soundproofing spell on this place. No matter how loud you shout, no one will hear you." Iron turned to see Sarland standing there, sword in hand, exuding a dense, murderous aura. He couldn't understand how Sarland had woken up, or how he knew about the Shadow Oath. "Impressive, isn't it?" Sarland taunted. "I don't just know about that. I also know how to reverse the Shadow Oath. I wonder how Irene will react to this." He then plunged his sword straight down into the center of the magic circle. Iron's heart felt as if it had been pierced. He screamed in agony, "What do you want? Stop it!" In his previous life, Sarland had to pay with his life to reclaim what was his. In this life, he was merely giving a taste of his own medicine. As he spoke, he pointed the sword directly at Irene. A piercing scream echoed. A subordinate reported to the madam that the spell had been broken. She was horrified and cried out her son's name. After the incident, Irene was taken back to his room to be cared for. The butler reassured the madam, saying, "The young master's body is fine. He merely expended too much magical power, leading to a temporary fainting spell. As for why the soundproofing spell broke, it was due to a traitor in the household who was distracted while casting it. I've already ordered him to be dealt with. Like mother, like son. If the child was wicked, the parent would be 100 times more so." She said, "Throw his corpse to the dogs." However, she noted, the young master's spirit is unstable. After all, he's still very young. The butler felt a heavy burden in his heart for having to do such things. Irene lay on the bed, bewildered. He felt like something had happened that he couldn't remember. Seeing her son's anxiety, the mother gently stroked her precious son's hair and comforted him. "You don't need to waste your energy on those shadows. In this world, it's dog eat dog." Before she could finish, Irene pushed her hand away. he lost control and declared, "I am the future head of the Cooper family. Those naturally born bastards must all sell their lives for me." The mother was extremely satisfied. "Ha ha ha! That's truly my son. This is how it should be. Tell mother what reward you want." Sarland, listening from outside, could only manage a helpless wry smile. What profound mother-son love. But unfortunately, from today onwards, Iron Cooper is officially my shadow. In his previous life, while fighting for the family, Sarland had discovered the shadow oath recorded in a catalog of blood magic. Sarland had joyfully presented it to the family, never suspecting he had long since become a sacrificial pawn for them. Fortunately, he had skimmed through the book's contents and combined it with his experience of reclaiming his power from his past life. Now, the price to reverse the shadow oath and switch the relationship between Sarland and Iron was merely a single drop of blood. Even so, at 3 years old, he was still a weak child, not strong enough to fight all of them. He had to become stronger starting now. Therefore, the first step to becoming stronger was to go to the volcano cliff. The Cooper family, wanting to filter out those with strong physiques and shadows who would willingly sacrifice themselves for the family, designed this testing ground. Just as Prometheus stole fire for humanity and willingly sacrificed himself, enduring being pecked day and night by the divine eagle, the Cooper family brought children under 10 years old down to the volcano cliff. They ordered them to pass through thorn bushes, ordered the divine eagles to feast on their flesh. Even if they were on the verge of death, they were not allowed to give up until only one shadow climbed to the top, blessed by the griffin to have an uninjurable body, no matter how much it was pecked or attacked. Enos Walker was the trainer for the shadows. He announced to the children, "No matter what method you use, there is only one standard for this test to climb to the top alive. Of course, don't forget, anyone who gives up will die in 3 days. All right, shadows, for your bright future, set off." After the whistle blew, the children rushed off. Only Sarland remained calm and unhurried. This surprised the trainer. One of the trainers knew he was the illegitimate child who had angered the young master the day before. Sarland's choice to climb the steep cliff made 2 trainers sneer. "Ha ha ha! He actually didn't take the gentle slope. He wants to climb to the summit bare-handed. I'm afraid he'll fall to his death before he's halfway. Utterly foolish." One even confidently offered to go collect the boy's corpse. The head trainer smirked devilishly. "No need." Suddenly he thought of a very interesting method. "It just so happens the griffin should be out by now." The griffin began to appear at the top of the mountain. The children started to panic when they saw it. Sarland climbed to the mountaintop and saw the pitiful scene before him. The eagle was using the children as snacks. The eagle hadn't seen him yet. The trainer's goal was to use the griffin to eliminate Sarland for angering the young master yesterday. Then one trainer aimed an arrow at the eagle. Just as the arrow whizzed past, Sarland pulled himself up. The griffin thought he had done this to provoke it. It angrily lunged, wanting to devour this foolish human alive. But this was exactly what Sarland wanted. He leaped onto its back. Having lived through one life, he knew there was only one way to quickly reach the summit and receive the griffin's blessing to tame it. A quick check on the griffin's information. An S-rank monster female. Danger level 4 stars. Birthplace volcano cliff. It's said that after eating many human brains, it developed intelligence and can communicate with humans. It has a pact with the Cooper family. The Cooper family provides bait for the griffin. The griffin helps the Cooper family filter shadows. Those who receive its blessing will gain an invincible body. It likes gold, silver, and precious stones and has one offspring. Sarland stabbed his sword straight into its head. The griffin, naturally unyielding and possessing human-like intelligence, would never submit unless completely defeated. Therefore, this was the only final move left. He rushed forward and used the Shadow Soul Seal 3rd form. Of course, the griffin didn't just sit there. It counterattacked immediately, sending Sarland flying off the cliff. Fortunately, he managed to grab onto the cliff face and after a struggle climbed back up. This was a deadly oversight. No matter how strong or skilled he was currently only 3 years old, not 30. Even if he had mastered the swordsmanship of his previous life, it was useless with this body's weight. If he got close to the griffin now, it would snatch him away. Luckily, there was still one way. He saw a nearby cave. As long as he could act, there would be a chance to turn the situation around. The griffin launched a wind sphere. Its power was truly immense. Each time the griffin breathed out a wind sphere from its mouth, the wind force would increase from level 1 to level 10. Sarland had to dodge left and right. Against a level 10 wind sphere, let alone him, even 100 Sarlands couldn't avoid it. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. If he couldn't dodge it, why not use the force of this attack to reach the cave? No sooner said than done. Sarland soared high, using the wind sphere as leverage to propel himself towards the cave. To minimize energy consumption and simultaneously trigger the Shadow Oath, to draw power from Iron, Sarland activated the Shadow Oath. Iron, who was sipping tea, suddenly fainted on the spot. The attendant standing there, scared witless, immediately shouted, "The young master has fainted again." So Sarland's plan had succeeded. Now he quickly entered the cave. The griffin arrived right after, eager to catch its little prey. The truth was, Sarland had taken its precious chick hostage. The little chick, terrified, cried out for its mother. Few in the world knew that as powerful as the griffin was, its offspring was born with injured wings and couldn't fly. It looked at its child in the enemy's hands, extremely worried. But of course, Sarland wouldn't harm it. On the contrary, he could heal its wings, allowing it to fly. Naturally, there would be conditions which he would state later. Below, hearing no sound, the trainers grew anxious. They thought Sarland had become a tasty meal for the griffin. They decided to return and report to young Master Iron, expecting a reward. Just as they finished speaking, the griffin appeared behind them, its eyes full of murderous intent. Sarland Cooper stood proudly on its back. Then the griffin used its claws to end the lives of the two unfortunate villains. This was its exchange with Sarland. With the griffin's part of the deal done, it was now Sarland's turn. Sarland requested it to take him to the secret realm in the northern mountain range of the Stonescape region. The plan was to retrieve the sword of Perseus, and then he would help it obtain the blood of Medusa, which could heal anything. Unfortunately, Sarland's true goal was neither the holy sword nor the griffin's help. What he wanted was to use the griffin to destroy this secret realm. The door slowly opened. Inside was a statue of a giant snake monster with a head of snakes for hair, looking rather untidy, as if it hadn't used hair gel. Below, 3 mysteriously cloaked figures stood. In his previous life at the age of 12, the matriarch had dispatched the Shadow Legion here to obtain the sword of Perseus for Iron. Because the secret realm contained a statue of Medusa that could turn any living creature to stone, the shadows, to help Iron, had diverted Medusa's attacks. In the end, they suffered heavy casualties, with only Sarland surviving. However, the sword of Perseus only accepted those with S-rank talent. Naturally, he couldn't obtain it. Iron, being S-rank, easily dealt with Medusa and obtained the sword. Ultimately, Iran became the genius chosen by the Holy Sword, gaining countless resources, connections, and loyal subordinates. Therefore, in this life, even if Sarland couldn't obtain it, he absolutely would not let Iran benefit from it. The griffin entered but saw no sword or Medusa's blood, only a broken statue. The door suddenly slammed shut. The griffin began to suspect Sarland was up to something. At that moment, behind it, stone statues rushed forward, each with a terrifying appearance. The griffin didn't know when these ugly stone figures had come to life. It fought them fiercely. They shattered into many fragments, but immediately those fragments could reassemble, gradually forming into imposing, violent, and terrifying figures. These 3 stone statues had no facial features, and like the 3 Grey sisters in mythology, shared 1 eye and 1 tooth. They and Medusa were both sea deities and had the power to control seawater. Sarland fled in feigned terror. The griffin knew running was pointless. If this continued, the place would collapse and both of them would perish here. What needed to be done now was to find the sword. He rushed off to search, his face urgent. "I'm looking." On the stone wall opposite there were runes. Perhaps there's a solution there. But in truth it was all an act by the budding actor Sarland. Everything was proceeding according to his wishes. The secret realm would collapse, and everyone would be buried here. He would, through his past life's knowledge, discover the hidden passage here. However, the current destructive force wasn't enough. He feigned a terrified expression, pointed to the runes, and said, "Griffin, get the eye from up there. Only then will they stop attacking." Hearing this, the griffin immediately flew up and retrieved the eye. The statues all melted into water. Sarland explained, "Because the runes say Perseus stole the eye of the three Grey-Eye sisters to find out where Medusa was. Therefore, the eye is the weakness of the three Grey-Eye sisters." The griffin wondered where the sword was the blood that could heal its child. "Is it written up there?" Sarland pointed to the sword behind it. "Perseus used this sword to cut off Medusa's head. Blood will flow down. The red blood can kill all living beings. The blue blood can heal all kinds of diseases. But that's only in legend. There's still one more secret related to this realm. The day the sword of Perseus appears is the day Medusa revives." The Medusa snake statue continued its relentless attack. Sarland had achieved his goal. Now he just needed to escape. Once the Medusa stone statue was activated, other than obtaining the sword of Perseus and decapitating it, there was no other way to stop it. Just as Sarland was about to step out the door, it suddenly attacked, catching him off guard. Currently, this giant statue wanted to eat Sarland alive. No one knew where the griffin was. It turned out she was hiding behind a large rock. Seeing that the situation was difficult to get involved in, she decided to leave it to him, because she didn't want to die yet. It was only then that he realized the griffin also had the skill to shrink in size. The monster attacked relentlessly. Fortunately, he had been through this secret realm once in his previous life, so he wasn't completely helpless. First, he had to get the shield from the Knight of the Round Table. He could use its reflection to see Medusa's position and avoid her gaze, thus preventing himself from being turned to stone. At the same time, it could also defend against Medusa's divine eye attack. Sarland used that shield to protect himself from the monster's attacks. However, with his current physique and only a shield, it wasn't enough. He was knocked back, the shield flew from his grasp, and he coughed up blood. The entrance to the secret passage had just been destroyed. Moreover, with his current talent level, there was no way to obtain the sword of Perseus. Even so, how would he know if he didn't try? If he didn't bet on it, he would die here today anyway. So even if he had to risk his life, he absolutely had to move forward. Unexpectedly, Sarland was able to retrieve it as easily as flipping his hand. Before he could rejoice for long, a snake pierced through his body and then lifted him up. Could it be because his talent was too low to wield the sword? Sarland recalled Iron's words from his previous life. "Just a D-rank talent, yet you want to defile this sword?" Sarland didn't know where he had gone wrong. When he was crucified, Iren and his mother stood below talking. His mother said, "He hasn't been branded yet. Don't tell me he'll know we're about to take his talent. The silly child, a memory-erasing spell will solve this." From that moment, his swordsmanship talent had been transferred to that wicked person. Returning to the present, Sarland was still enduring Medusa's attacks. The griffin lurked nearby, unsure what was happening. It couldn't believe that fool could escape without any harm. He could even counterattack and take Medusa's head, simply because he was a monster. In his previous life, he originally had S-rank swordsmanship talent, but the matriarch had used magic to steal his talent for Iron to use, and even erased Sarland's memories. So that was the truth. He collected the blue blood into a glass vial and then laughed loudly. "Things are getting more and more interesting. Iren, just stay home and wait to see what happens next." The griffin, while this brat was acting crazy, had tiptoed away quietly. Being called back, it was startled. At this point, it couldn't mess around anymore. It had even forgotten it was an S-rank monster. Why should it be afraid of this baby-faced brat? Sarland only asked one question. Is your head hard? The griffin was puzzled. It turned out he was using its hard head to break through the rocks and escape the cave. At this moment, the griffin also realized that this brat had wanted to use it to destroy the secret realm from the very beginning. But well considering it had healed its child, it would temporarily overlook the matter. After getting a few bumps on its head, the two finally escaped the secret realm. Meanwhile, the image of Medusa was absorbing power from its head. Then its eyes opened. This proved that it had not been completely defeated. After all, that Sarland finally received the griffin's blessing. In the name of the griffin, I bless you. I wish for you an uninjurable body no matter how you are attacked. Red light emanated from around his body. He felt as if the small wounds on his body had completely healed. This was also good. It could reduce the wounds on his body to avoid Irene's suspicion. Besides that, he also had to temporarily hide his S-rank swordsmanship talent to avoid future trouble. Sarland gave the vial of blue blood to the griffin. Quickly give it to your child to drink. The wings will heal very quickly. The young eagle drank all the medicine in the vial. Instantly, it was able to fly, much to its mother's excitement. After all the worries, her precious baby could finally fly. Sarland watched and said, "It's just knowing how to fly. If it doesn't recognize its master before it matures, it will end up no different from a stupid bird." The griffin didn't understand what those words meant. However, he didn't elaborate and just turned to leave. Nothing, just a kind reminder. After all, you'll only become stronger after acknowledging a master right. However, the griffin thought to itself, he's right. If it weren't for my master feeding me medicine every day, I wouldn't have gained intelligence and become stronger. It's just that my master died hundreds of years ago, and I haven't found anyone with high strength who is also as diligent as him. It suddenly realized that the brat in front of it, Sarland Cooper, possessed all those qualities. Immediately, the griffin pleaded for its child to become Sarland's magical pet. It knew he was still young, but already possessed skills and wisdom far superior to children his age. In the future, he might even surpass Brad. Finally, the fish had taken the bait. Sarland agreed to take it as his magical pet, but they had to make a deal. He had to obtain all the information about Brad Cooper, along with the precious key that the Cooper family cherished, the spirit sword Brad. Currently, the madam was very upset and angry because she couldn't find the reason why the young master had fainted time and time again. Could it all be fabricated? How long will this situation last? The butler could only try to calm the madam's spirits. He said, "Madam, please rest assured. The young master has the shadow oath to strengthen him. He will recover quickly each time. After all, those shadows are there to bear it for the young master and provide energy." Although those words weren't wrong, this whole thing was too strange. It seemed that only after the oath ceremony did her precious son become like this. She believed there was definitely something abnormal. The butler reported, "There is still an important matter that requires the madam's attention. That is, Sarland Cooper has passed the qualification test." Just as we expected. It's just that he used the griffin to skewer young Walker and even tamed its child as a magical pet. So, upon hearing this, the madam was shocked. She quickly asked, "Where is he?" But there was no need to search. Sarland had already stepped in. "Madam, do you have any instructions?" She wanted to know why this brat had dealt with the Walker uncle and nephew. Sarland replied with a face full of murderous intent. "Wasn't it for the sake of the family? As the instructors of the shadows to be dealt with by a 3-year-old child like me, they were too useless. The Cooper family doesn't need such trash, right, madam?" Hearing these words from a 3-year-old, the madam was, to put it mildly, scared pale. That expression of shock, indignation, and disgust. "What other cards do you have? Hurry up and use them all. I absolutely will not say a single word of fear." Faced with this, the madam ordered the butler to quickly reward him with a healing treatment at the Paradise Spring. Sarland cheerfully thanked the madam. No matter what tricks she pulled, he could handle them all. Afterward, she ordered the butler to speed up the research on the talent plundering magic. Before the Spirit Sword inheritance ceremony, Sarlin's talent absolutely had to be plundered for Iron's use. The butler quickly accepted the order. Once the secret that Iron couldn't use his swordsmanship talent was exposed, his position as heir would be untenable. For now, she would let the brat go to see if he could still be so arrogant then. At the Paradise Spring, Sarland recalled his conversation with the griffin. It said that before its master died, he had used a forbidden art to seal his soul at the bottom of the Paradise Spring. The purpose was to pass on his lifetime's worth of swordsmanship to an heir with S-rank swordsmanship talent, simultaneously ensuring that the Cooper family's status against the Empire would not decline. It gave him the key and instructed that after Sarland entered, he should follow the underground current and he would reach an underground cave. This key would lead him to the master. However, it seemed that ever since it and its master left the Paradise Spring had become strange. It didn't know the specific situation. The only thing it could tell him was that the blood magic its master used was definitely not easy to deal with. Sarland felt that blood magic was indeed quite strange. It seemed that obtaining the swordsmanship inheritance before Iron would not be simple at all. The children nearby were gossiping about him. They knew he was qualified and had been trained first. He had even tamed the griffin's child. Truly admirable. But Luenthia, along with Reno, or the son of the Cooper family's stable master, showed contempt. No matter how good he is, he's still just the son of a prostitute. The buck-toothed boy spat out taunting words. "Congratulations, I didn't expect a scrawny monkey like you to run as fast as a scrawny monkey being the first to reach the mountaintop." The one walking beside him laughed heartily. Sarland remembered that in his previous life on the surface, they were his subordinates, but in reality, they were pawns placed by Irene. They fabricated baseless accusations to charge him with collaborating with the enemy and treason, and because they had Irene backing them, they were used to acting tyrannically. Noticing that Sarland ignored his words, Reno intended to speak with his fists. He wanted to know how effective his invincible body was. But immediately that fist was neutralized by Sarland. Then he twisted Reno's arm back. Reno's face contorted in pain. The fat one accompanying him immediately drew a knife to save his big brother, but the person he stabbed was his own big brother. Sarland offered a brief apology. "Sorry I wasn't careful and used him as a shield." After that, he returned him to his underling. "The spring water can heal that wound anyway, so you two can go down there and hug each other. Besides, I still want to use you guys for practice next time. In this life, I'll give you an undeniable reason to be my pawns." The aura of dark magic was appearing underwater. How could this cruel, forbidden art no different from blood magic appear in the healing spring water? Perhaps that was the strangeness the griffin had mentioned. But even if he couldn't go down into this stream, he had to think of a way at all costs to get to the bottom without being affected by it. Suddenly, at this moment, a familiar sound was heard, a girl's cry for help. She was being dragged by her hair down the road by a young man. He was very angry, shouting, "You can't even serve tea properly. I see you're asking for a beating, aren't you?" The little girl pleaded in pain, but to no avail. The madman was about to use violence to suppress her, but he was immediately cut in half by Sarland's sword. The children around witnessed the scene terrified and quickly ran off to report it. He extended his hand to the girl. From Andrea's perspective, Sarland was a handsome, dazzling, sparkling, shimmering, glittering, diamond-like prince. From Sarland's perspective, he thought he was scaring her. He awkwardly apologized for frightening her. But in front of the prince, Andrea definitely only saw a handsome boy. Heavens, she barely had any composure left. She shyly thanked him for saving her life and introduced herself as Andrea. Andrea was Sarland's best friend in his previous life. She had magical talent far surpassing her peers. The two of them had fought side by side for a short time. Not only that, but they also had feelings for each other. Even at 5 years old, Andrea was still very cute. The two of them just stood there awkwardly thanking each other. In front of a beautiful girl, he couldn't act cool. Anyway, this was just what a gentleman should do, nothing major. Sarland asked Andrea if she knew a way to make the spring water dry up. or to get to the bottom without getting a single drop of water on him. He couldn't forget the main task. If it was her, she would probably have a way. Andrea seemed quite surprised. Could it be that Sarland has already found out? Then she whispered, "There's some very strange magic in this spring water. It can heal wounds, but from now on one cannot receive other healing spells and can only rely on this spring water to heal oneself. So that's how it is. It seems this is also a method the Cooper family uses to control the shadows, simultaneously making the shadows endure pain while being able to aid the family." Andrea held her benefactor's hand to thank him for saving her life. Of course, she would have a way to help him get to the bottom without getting wet. She used duck magic, which could make a person like a duck. Though their body is on the water, their feathers underneath don't get wet. Sarland smiled awkwardly. This wasn't exactly barrier magic, but this girl's naming sense was still as wonderfully quirky as ever. At this moment, the people from the family had also swarmed in after hearing that some brat had stabbed someone. So they were about to catch up to the two of them. The two quickly pulled each other and ran. They both jumped into the water. The underground water vein at the bottom of the lake must be in that whirlpool over there. Andrea reminded him not to go through there and to leave quickly. Just as she finished speaking, the whirlpool sucked both of them in. Sarland woke up not knowing where this was. He took out the jeweled key from his pocket. It was the key that could open the shrine of the spirit sword. It's just that there was no door here to use the key on. Or perhaps it needed to be summoned. Although she didn't know what a spirit sword was, Andrea said she could try. Then she began to chant, "Key, okay, please heed my call. Find your master, open the door to his dwelling." Immediately, the nearby flowers transformed into man-eating flowers. They opened their mouths full of sharp teeth and attacked the two of them. Then finally the door appeared. However, Andrea was now unconscious. There was no other way now but to temporarily leave her here. Then he used the invisibility magic that she had taught him in his previous life to hide her to prevent her from being discovered if there was any danger. Anyway, to obtain the spirit sword inheritance, there would have to be a fierce battle. Finally, Sarland strode in alone, resolute. Although he had prepared for a long time, the scene before him was truly horrifying. This was indeed a mass grave. Before him was the sight of a multi-eyed monster with teeth as sharp as knives draining the life force of a girl. Finally, it noticed a new guest had arrived. The Paradise Spring looked like a healing spring on the outside, but in reality, it was a red light district arranging handmaidens for the Cooper family. It was then that Sarland learned the true fate of those handmaidens. All of them eventually became food for the sword demon. That monster glided over like a gust of wind. It smelled the scent of S-rank talent on him. Sarland quickly retreated. He was very surprised. How did it know the sword demon spoke, "Unless you are Iron Cooper, the brat who possessed S-rank talent from birth? But your appearance doesn't look like you've been living in luxury. Let me guess, are you just an illegitimate child come to reclaim your inheritance?" As it spoke, it lunged forward to attack. It wouldn't hand it over easily unless he could pass its trial. "But rest assured," Sarland retorted, "I came here to take your head, not just to boast." Looking at the arrogant demeanor of the brat before it, the sword demon declared he couldn't be its descendant. The two sides continued to clash. One, a giant monster, 2 meters tall, the other, a 3-year-old brat not even 1 meter tall. They fought from one side to the other. Of course, to it, he was just a weak little kid. Sarland was continuously beaten down, unable to stand. However, immediately it saw the griffin's blessing on him. It hadn't expected that stupid bird to acknowledge such a weakling. It had been a long time since it and the griffin had met. That year, Brad, to seal his soul, had sacrificed half his energy to achieve the inheritance. Based on his current strength, there was still a possibility. Sarland stood up as if nothing had happened. Power enveloped his body. Beside the sword demon, a cross appeared. Instantly, its entire body was hung on it. This was the Forbidden Blood Array. It had been dead for so long that it didn't know that over the years the Empire had researched a secret technique to counter the blood array. Now, just by obtaining its heart, he could forcibly seize the inheritance. The creature shrieked in pain. The moment his sword pierced it, it broke free from the array's suppression. It laughed with delight. It's been a long time since I've played with a mouse, but the game was over. It no longer wanted to play. It had to admit the brat in front of it truly had ability and talent, just not enough to inherit its swordsmanship. As it spoke, it summoned countless hovering red souls. They all aimed at him. Using blood to control blood spirits is too powerful an ability. Sarlin currently couldn't resist because there were too many of them. He quickly used Holy Sword Guardian, using Perseus's sword to counter the blood demon. However, with just a light touch from Brad, the Holy Sword Circle shattered into pieces. It grabbed his neck and lifted him up. You probably know that after a cat plays with a mouse, it eats the mouse right. Sarlin gradually became helpless. His blood and magical power were draining away. The creature realized his memories felt somewhat familiar. Previously, there was a handmaiden it had eaten who had this scent. Perhaps that person was your mother. Sarlin was startled when it mentioned his mother. He definitely wouldn't let the monster that harmed his mother go. He recalled memories of his mother gently lulling him to sleep her soft lullabies until the moment she said, "I'm sorry, Sarlin, mother has to go." So it was this damned thing that had taken his mother away. Sarlin, as if possessed, wanted to avenge his mother. Blood Devour was used. The sword demon couldn't believe such a small brat could use its magic like that. Even if he had to burn his own blood, Sarlin was determined to defeat the sword demon. Just now, releasing the blood spirits had consumed too much of its energy. Now it had to eat one to replenish. Sarlin at this moment seemed to be going mad. He lost control. "I'm asking you, was my mother tasty?" The image of his mother brought him back to a human state. Then, what was bound to happen happened. One strike from him swiftly dealt with the sword demon. It knew this little brat had gone crazy. Now it had to go out and eat a few more handmaidens, or else if this continued, it feared it would be done for. However, why would Sarlin let it have its way? The sword demon, terrified, said, Don't kill me. I can supplement your sword, become your spirit sword." Of course it didn't survive. Finally, he had won this battle and avenged his mother. At this moment, blood also spewed out like rain. Sarlin absorbed the swordsmanship inheritance, imprinting it into his body. He almost forgot. Since birth, he had never had a mother. All of that was just a ridiculous illusion. Sarlin knew he was a monster. And what a pitiful monster. Looking at his reflection in a pool of blood, an image of his mother gently omed Okanbenya. She affirmed that her son was not a monster and that she would always be by his side. At this moment, Andrea also rushed in, flustered. She was very worried about him when she saw him covered in so much blood. If he was injured anywhere, she would heal him immediately. Saying so, she gently touched Sarlin's cheeks and began to heal him. In his previous life, Andrea ultimately met the fate of becoming a handmaiden. Sarlin embraced her and promised that in this life he would absolutely not let that tragedy repeat itself. He would not let this girl fall into the same circumstances as his mother. Blood Devour. What was it that made the sword demon so afraid? Does it have blood magic attributes? The price to pay is one's own blood. The condition is a finished grade treasured sword. Offer one's own blood to the sword. Before the blood is completely burned away, the weapon's attributes and abilities will greatly increase. The spirit sword demon vanished. The family erupted in dispute. The guards of Paradise Spring were all dead, and the handmaidens who had witnessed Sarlin's brutality no longer dared to bully Andrea. In rumors, he was said to be the mastermind behind the spirit sword demon's destruction, but there was no proof. The matriarch could only intensify her oppression, imprisonment, bloodletting, and poisoning, but Sarlin remained unharmed. 4 years later at the Cooper family training ground, Iron was arrogantly looking down on the defeated soldiers at the mercy of his sword. With just that little strength, you want to defeat me? Young master, please spare us. You are still the most formidable. At this moment, Duke Isaac, head of the Isaac family, arrived full of praise. I've long heard that young Master Eren of the Cooper family was born with S-rank swordsmanship talent. Meeting you today, your reputation is truly well-deserved. Cooper Leon, head of the Cooper family and Iren's father, was pleased to hear his son being praised, but still acted as if it were a matter of course. You flatter me. Suddenly, something happened on the other side. It was Saarland. He had arrived. Without saying a word, he used Shadow Blade Wind Cleave Strike, sending all the soldiers flying and piling them up on the ground. Isaac witnessed it all. He knew this move. Ordinary people at that age would still be at the level of an iron sword apprentice, but the child below had clearly reached the level of a silver sword guardian. Truly unimaginable. Iren felt extremely annoyed that Saarland dared to steal his top spot. He channeled all his resentment into challenging Saarland. In his previous life, Iren had become so dominant only by stealing talent from Saarland. In this life, his inherent strength was merely that of a piece of trash. Saarland agreed immediately. This was a good opportunity to probe him. That fellow also took this opportunity to pretend to accidentally send his enemy to heaven. The servants beside them cheered wholeheartedly for their young master. We believe in our young master. Young master, absolutely show him what a true swordsmanship genius is. Go, young master. Irene attacked first. He still had a strong belief that he could defeat Saarland. Saarland was no pushover either. He retorted immediately, Is that all the strength you have, young master? Didn't the mistress feed you? He flicked this shoddy young master away. Iren gritted his teeth bitterly. Mother had clearly said that with his current strength, no one in the family was his match. Yet that simple sword strike was so powerful, even the magic on the sword was unreal. He was clearly the one growing stronger. But then he consoled himself that he was just overthinking it. His opponent had no swordsmanship talent at all. Saarland decided to show him what a real attack was. He rushed forward with his sword from behind. Iren turned but couldn't react in time. Saarland's Shadow Blade third thrust made him wet his pants in fear, fall to the ground, and cry out, clutching his eye. Isaac, witnessing the match, burst out laughing. It seems I misjudged. Iren's strength is only so-so. The servants who were beaten just now probably weren't faking it, were they? The family head felt so ashamed he wanted to hide. However, Duke Isaac's sister and Iren also had a prior marriage engagement. He couldn't let his sister marry a useless person. The two men looked at each other with electrifying gazes, but outwardly still maintained a gentle demeanor. You're overthinking it. This isn't a royal decree for marriage. Whether anyone will marry your sister is still unknown. Isaac didn't want to bother the family head anymore, and also reminded him not to forget the joint operation of their two families in 10 days. Then he took his leave. After Duke Isaac left, Leon felt his son was truly useless. He asked a servant, "What is that little shadow's name?" The servant reported, "His name is Saarland. He is your son with a handmaiden." And who was that handmaiden? There is no record of her anymore. Leon looked at his son. No wonder his tactics are so superb. He ordered Saarland to be brought to his study. Not long after Saarland was in the study. However, when Leon used his probing eye, he couldn't detect even a hint of talent. Is he deliberately hiding his abilities to compete for the inheritance later? Quite cunning. Unfortunately, still just a little brat easily seen through. He told Saarland, "In 10 days you will lead Shadow Group Gnome. 10 along with the Isaac family's team to the Lost Crystal City to retrieve a dragon egg for the family." Then he gave Saarland a sword that could activate a teleportation array to Crystal City. Saarland knew that to get the dragon egg, they would inevitably have to deal with the magic dragon in the city. Sending him this time, he feared, was not with good intentions. However, the opportunity to obtain a dragon egg could not be missed. He immediately obeyed the family head's order. However, he also had one request. The next day, he, Andrea, and some other members set off. His request was to allow Andrea and Mio to accompany him. She rode on Mio's the Griffin's child back the whole way. This made her feel concerned because Sarland had said she was a handmaiden accompanying him, but riding like this the whole way wasn't good. However, he said it was fine. They wouldn't have any objections. The men accompanying them were already scared stiff of him, so how would they dare to speak up? They reached Crystal City. However, no one knew where the dragon egg was. At this moment, a voice rang out. I didn't expect the Cooper family's elite troops to be so clueless about even the basic knowledge of Crystal City. It's truly laughable. The girl who spoke was Isaac Gloria, sister of the Isaac family head, and also Irene's fiancée. She raised her hand to greet Sarland and introduced herself as Gloria. However, he ignored her, turned back, and told Andrea and Mio to stay there. He would be out soon. Then he went in with her. Gloria was unwilling to be ignored by a man like that. Sarland spoke up. Miss Gloria, if we don't activate the transport gate together before sunset, I'm afraid this trip will be for nothing. He remembered his past life. Yet in this life, he still encountered that troublesome girl. Well, whatever. He should still pray that the stupid beast Mio could successfully complete the task he had assigned it. The Cooper family members were astonished to see the altar glowing. The Isaac family members sneered at the country bumpkins. This is how Crystal City should look. It appeared very beautiful, but whether the legendary magic dragon egg was truly here was unknown. At this moment, a young man suddenly stepped onto the altar. He intended to deal with the Cooper family's miscellaneous soldiers and bring the dragon egg back to his family. At that time, the family head would definitely reward him. The moment he was about to destroy the altar, Sarland couldn't stop him in time. As a result, everything exploded. What caused this explosion was the Guardian of Light, the protector of Crystal City. Everyone was surrounded. Gloria was also helpless with her soldiers. She immediately ran over and used Thorn Slash to save him, then turned to reprimand the other guy who still insisted he did it all for the family. However, he was more likely doing it for himself. At this moment, two Guardians attacked Gloria from behind unexpectedly. Just when she thought she was done for, luckily Sarland intervened in time to save her life. He ordered the shadows to quickly form a formation. The shadows obeyed and immediately spread out. A purple power enveloped the Guardians. I'd really like to see whether their light energy is stronger or my shadows are. The Isaac family members were astonished to see the Guardians being wiped out in one go. This is the Cooper family's specialty, a fusion of swordsmanship, especially that Sarland. He's still just a child, yet he can be so strong. Gloria suddenly blushed, greatly admiring what he was doing. Sarland had successfully absorbed the core energy directly from the Silver Sword Guardian, leveling up to Gold Sword Master. The next step was to use this core to open the secret passage. Just as he placed the crystal core, suddenly everything around them shook. The altar was gradually descending. Everyone shouted to get on the altar. The secret passage leading into the magic dragon's lair would open very soon. Everyone was brought down into the magic dragon's lair. The scene below was truly terrifying and gruesome. Everything was covered in fire like lava flows. Luenthia exclaimed, "Great! I didn't expect there to be so many," Reno said excitedly. "This way, there's no need to divide them. Doesn't everyone get one?" Isaac Gloria's soldiers were ordered, "Quick, pack them all up." Sarland Cooper watched them collecting the eggs, finding it amusing. "Fools, are you in a hurry to feed the magic dragon?" Suddenly, the dragon roared from behind, startling everyone. What? What was that? The magic dragon. The magic dragon has awakened. Gloria, along with Sarland, reassured everyone, "Draw your swords and advance. Don't panic, engage." Sarland divided the tasks. "I'll cover the rear. You guys take the dragon eggs and go." Suddenly, the dragon eggs were snatched away unexpectedly. Gray appeared out of nowhere, holding an egg in one hand, the other hand on the elevator switch. He asked, "What's that noise?" Everyone shouted angrily at Gray. "What did you do?" He recalled Duke Cooper Leon's instructions. Have those shadows tie down the magic dragon. After taking the dragon eggs, destroy the transport altar. Don't let the Isaac family have a chance. As for Sarland, let him fend for himself. Gray said decisively, Sorry, everyone. The Empire can only have one family possessing dragon eggs, and that is the Cooper family. Then he pressed the elevator button, sending him up and away, his parting words echoing, For the family, you all sacrifice yourselves. Ha ha, I'm leaving first. Everyone was furious. You bastard, get back here. The sound of shoes hitting the ground, strong and determined. Isaac, Gloria, though still fighting, was in a mood to joke. The Cooper family head is truly cold-blooded. Not only to us, but you guys are also considered discarded. Sarland replied simply, As expected. Gloria was confused. As expected? Then you're still seeking your own death. He wanted to avoid this issue, so he didn't answer directly. You're overthinking it. Sarland attacked, following the dragon's fiery breath. Because I can't die here, he declared. One sword strike severed the dragon's wing. The magic dragon thrashed and roared in pain. It flew into a rage. Sarland, run! The dragon turned and struck him. A small explosion flashed. Gloria, worried, ran over, calling his name as she ran, Sarland. The magic dragon continued to attack her. She used Moonflower Sword Shield to block the blow for him. Sarland tumbled to the ground. Gloria counterattacked and took the chance to scold him, This is your all right. Are you still okay? He propped himself up with his sword, his voice becoming serious. I'm fine. Help me hold it off. I'll take the opportunity to attack its... Find it. I'm counting on you, Miss Gloria. Only you can do it. Hearing this, Isaac Gloria blushed a little and immediately agreed. Okay. She enthusiastically charged forward with a small thought in her mind. I'm also a talented swordsman. I can't let that brat look down on me. Sarland just smiled silently as if he had a perfect plan already calculated. After completing her task, Gloria reminded Sarland, Now is the time, attack. Seeing him not moving, she got angry. Hey, hurry up and attack. What are you standing there, eye for? There's no time to talk. Gloria continued to fight the magic dragon, feeling a bit annoyed. Damn it! Did he fall too hard just now? Does he not have the strength to attack anymore? If this continues, we'll all die. I can only use that move. She spun around with a destructive sword dance and was unexpectedly injured. The dragon let out a pained roar, its head slumping to the ground. Gloria was both overjoyed and scared. Success. Reno and Lucien approached, continuously kicking its head, cursing as they kicked, Taste our might, stupid dragon. Isaac. Gloria, panting, still couldn't believe it. She asked herself again, Success. Suddenly, the magic dragon's eyes snapped open, stunning everyone. It opened its mouth and roared. Lewin panicked. Oh no! The magic dragon has become even more ferocious. Quick, find cover. This shocked Gloria. How can this be? Sarland placed a hand on his chest, sneering at their thoughts of hiding. He drew a sword, concentrating his power. Swordsmanship inheritance. Third form. Blood shadow slash. Sarland's eyebrows furrowed, his gaze becoming sharp. All the blood in the magic dragon's body gushed out like red silk ribbons. Those ribbons were sucked into Sarland's upraised sword, coalescing. He finished receiving that red liquid. The four of them stared, mouths agape. Lucien stammered, Sarland made the dragon's blood transform into a body. Reno had another discovery. Hey, not only that, didn't you notice it suddenly changed into a divine treasured sword? Gloria's soldier wondered. Could it be blood magic? Gloria replied. Yes. But because this is a forbidden art, the Empire only allows the Cooper family to use it on enemies in battle. She thought of the past. Previously, I heard the Cooper family's spirit sword demon vanished. Unless it was him. Realizing the issue, she scowled and scolded. Wait a minute, so he deliberately didn't act waiting for me to stab that dragon and make it bleed? The more Gloria scolded, the angrier she became. Sarland Cooper, you bastard, how dare you use me? Sarland smirked, and like a gust of wind, rushed forward. So what if I used you? In my previous life, I was the one abandoned. How could I just sit there and wait to die? He leaped up and raised his sword. The magic dragon saw it and was terrified. Blood Shadow Slash is a blood magic skill requiring a gold sword master to use. The skill creates a blood clone from the enemy's blood to perform a group attack. However, the price is that the user will gradually lose their sanity, fall into a demonized state, and die from blood explosion. After being hit by Sarland's Blood Shadow Slash, the dragon let out a heaven-shaking roar of pain. It collapsed to the ground before everyone's astonished eyes. No way! The magic dragon finally... Gloria hadn't even finished her sentence when a blood-red blade suddenly appeared in front of her, blocking her. Don't come over here! Sarland, one hand clutching his constantly twitching face, coughed. Seeing his eyes turn white and his sword pointed at them, everyone was a bit surprised. At this moment, Sarland's soul was tightly gripped by the sword demon. It whispered in his ear, "You think killing me means you can be carefree? You will become like me, needing to consume much flesh and blood to maintain your energy." It pointed its sharp black-clawed hand towards the comrades standing before Sarland. The sword demon yanked Sarland's hair back. "Go on, little mouse. Those are all delicious morsels. Go and enjoy the pleasure of killing." Sarland, as if hypnotized, rushed forward madly, causing everyone to scatter in fear. "Want more blood? Oh no, that guy used too much blood magic and has become demonized. Help, run." Just then, a gentle voice suddenly rang out, "Sarland, don't!" Andrea's unexpected appearance surprised everyone. Andrea. She quickly used her magic to soothe the demonic aura engulfing Sarland's mind, gradually helping him calm down. "Sarland!" Andrea reached out, flying towards him, trying to enter his mind. Her worried face and tear-filled eyes appeared right before him. "Sarland, wake up!" Sarland sat by a large rock, looking around blankly. "Andrea, good, you're finally awake. I used a purification art on you. You won't be demonized for now. The others are also safe and sound." Saying so, she suddenly stood up and presented something incredibly surprising before him. She was holding a large dragon egg in her arms. Behind her was Gray, tied up tightly, groaning. "Ugh! Ugh!" "The dragon egg is also unharmed. This is the only one left." Andrea constantly encouraged him. "Moreover, I didn't tell the Isaac family about the dragon egg. That red-haired girl has already taken her troops and left, so don't worry about not completing the mission. Long... Sarland." At this moment, Sarland felt a weight lift and immediately said, "Thank you, Andrea. I'm not worried about that." He gripped the sword tightly in his hand, thinking, I originally wanted Mio to take Andrea to another safe place, and then falsely report that she died accidentally so she could leave the family. Unexpectedly, Sarland angrily swung his sword towards Mio. "You couldn't even do that one thing, go die, you useless bird." It cowered behind Andrea in fear, growling a few times as if to say, "It's not my fault, she was worried about your safety." "What did you say? You want to enter the secret realm? Your wings have hardened. Learn to talk back, huh?" Andrea also hurriedly defended it. "Sarland, let's talk things over slowly. Don't get agitated." At this moment, a loud shout suddenly came. "Hey, Sarland Cooper!" Lucien and Reno, swords in hand, faces full of murderous intent, rushed this way. Sarland smirked. "Finally showing your fangs, huh? Want to snatch this egg from my hands." However, the next scene terrified him, his eyes widening. They used their swords to stab Gray, who was kneeling behind him, causing fresh blood to splatter everywhere. Then both of them suddenly knelt before Sarland. The others quickly followed suit, kneeling and saying loudly, "Young Master Cooper, please forgive our previous disrespect. If it weren't for your intervention, those of us abandoned by the family would have likely perished here. From now on, we will no longer obey the family's orders. We will only take orders from you, live and die by your side. Even in death, we will not waver. Live and die by your side. Even in death, we will not waver." Sarland stammered in shock. "Everyone!" Just then, Andrea suddenly exclaimed, "Sarland, look!" The dragon egg shook for a while, then cracks appeared. An incredibly cute little purple dragon quickly hatched, chirping, "Enech, the magic dragon. The magic dragon has hatched." Sarland reached out his hand towards it and immediately said, "The magic dragon only submits to the strongest. Do you agree to accept me as your master?" The little dragon obediently purred and rubbed its head against his hand, as if to say yes. Witnessing this scene, everyone cheered with joy. "Great, the magic dragon has submitted." They all congratulated him in unison. "Congratulations, young master, on taming the magic dragon." From this day forward, Sarland Cooper's army of family traitors was born. Scene change. Bright sunlight filtered into every nook and cranny of Cooper Castle. Irene sat beside his mother, whining, "Mother, when can I go to the racetrack?" "Wait until your father finishes his work." A man angrily slammed a piece of paper onto the table. "Go where all you know is how to play. You're not even as good as an illegitimate child. Do you know that brat Sarland not only killed the magic dragon but also tamed the dragon whelp?" Haya quickly spoke up in defense. "It's not his fault." "What are you yelling at him for? If it were our Irene, he definitely could have tamed the magic dragon. Right. She huffily took her son's hand and walked out. "Talking to you is pointless. Irene, let's go. Mother will take you to the racetrack today." "Yes." The room door slammed shut immediately after. Irene happily ran down the hallway. "Quick, bring me my riding crop." Haya used her fan to cover her mouth and asked softly, "How is the research on the plundering magic going?" Dak glanced at her. "Madam, rest assured the research has been successful. Once we find a target with S-rank talent, we will test it. After confirming, we will immediately practice it on Sarland Cooper." Her face carried a few traces of murderous intent as she gritted her teeth and uttered cruel words. "Very good. This time we must completely eliminate that brat." 5 years later, the little boy Sarland of yesteryear had become a handsome and dashing young man. A light flashed above his head along with a voice, "After this time, it can be completely refined." Sarland looked up and smiled. "In the future, I won't be demonized either. I can fully utilize my swordsmanship. Thank you, Andrea." Andrea hugged her staff tightly. "No, I should be thanking you. You gave me the magic staff I like the most." Just as she finished speaking, a black shadow suddenly flashed past the window outside. Sarland immediately rushed over and threw open the window. Who was it gone already? But that figure was clearly the butler. Lucian and Reno opened the door and entered, announcing, "Young Master Sarland, the matter you arranged has yielded results." Both knelt, placing a hand on their chest. "We secretly followed the butler and discovered that recently he has been gathering a group of dark mages. It seems they want to conduct some kind of ritual in 3 days. Also, those mages said something about finally discovering another S-rank talent target with extremely high magical ability." Sarland frowned deep in thought. "They really want to start the plundering ritual. But why not act directly against me and instead look for another S-rank talent target?" As if something prompted him, he immediately looked straight at his friend standing innocently beside him. "The target is the higher the magical power. It's Andrea." 3 days later, Andrea was busy in the dark warehouse, sighing. "The warehouse is messy again. I'll use magic to clean it up." Just when she wasn't paying attention, Dak had appeared behind her, looking at her with a murderous glint in his eyes. The handkerchief soaked in anesthetic in his hand quickly covered Andrea's mouth. She struggled for a moment, then her whole body went limp. Her eyes blurred and then closed completely. Passed out. She was taken to a remote forest and placed in the middle of a magic array formed by strange mages. Power of the dark night, heed my command. Deep within the heart, condense in my hand. The incantations echoed. Other powers, heed my command. Energy flows like shadow and form. Other powers, heed my command. Energy flows like shadow and form. Dak held a sharp knife and rushed towards her. As long as the heart's blood merges with the magic array, her talent will be mine. However, just as he brought it down, Andrea's figure suddenly disappeared, causing him to exclaim in alarm, "What's going on?" She had appeared behind him, staff held firmly, and spoke. That was illusion magic. She angrily pointed her weapon at Dak's face, much to his horror. "Andrea, don't underestimate me!" The staff in her hand immediately shot out golden chains. After Andrea shouted, "Sparkling chain, prison bind," they rushed towards Dak, quickly binding his old body. Damn it, this bitch is too cunning. He turned his head and ordered the mages, "What are you standing there for? Catch her for me." "Yes." Andrea sat down, her eyes closed, tightly covering her ears, remembering what she had been told. Sarland had said, "Next, just close your eyes. Don't listen to anything. Don't see anything." At this moment, several black shadows appeared in the sky along with a deafening roar, stunning Dak. "What's going on? This sound is..." The mages, seeing Sarland's giant spirit beasts flying over, were terrified and exclaimed, "Dragons! It's dragons! And there's also a griffin. How can this be? How can there be magical beasts here when everything was fine?" They rushed forward. One spewed fire, another used its mouth to bite and tear apart those evil mages. Sweat began to pour down Dak's face like rain. His eyes trembled as he watched his henchmen being annihilated. Magic dragon and griffin. Could it be? "You even dare to touch Andrea! You must think you've lived long enough!" From behind, Sarland, with his sword slung over his shoulder, walked forward step by step with determination. "It's Sarland Cooper!" He pointed the tip of his sword at Dak's face, causing the wrinkled skin to start bleeding. "Why did you want to harm Andrea?" Dak squeezed his eyes shut and replied tremblingly, Because the plundering magic can only be used once on a target, to ensure that young Master Iron can obtain your talent. We had to find someone to experiment on. So please spare me, I was just following orders." These words made Sarland's whole body stiffen. So it was because of me that Andrea was harmed. He lowered his head and said in a deep voice, "I can spare you." He suddenly cut his own palm deeply with his sword, but when Dak saw his opponent letting drops of blood fall onto the ground beneath him, his face turned pale, and he groaned, "This is... the Shadow Oath." Sarland grabbed his hair tightly, pulling it back. "Go back and report to the matriarch as usual. The plundering ritual experiment was successful. You can proceed with me immediately, otherwise you know what your fate will be." "Why?" Hearing this question, Sarland immediately sneered. "Why? Of course it's to expose Iren's true face." The butler Dak went to report to Haya that the plundering experiment was successful. In another corner, Iren was standing, uttering sweet nothings. "Beautiful Miss Gloria, may I ask if you would do me the honor of strolling through the garden with me?" "Isaac." Gloria looked disgusted and said, "Get lost." "Haya in a corner?" still asked Butler Dak. "What entirely accurate?" He nodded in reply. "Entirely accurate. The full moon next month happens to be the young master's coming-of-age ceremony. We can proceed then." Hearing this, she was overjoyed and said, "Good, well done." Then Haya thought to herself, "What I've been waiting for many years will finally be realized. Iren Mother will definitely make you sit on the position of family head. No, sit firmly in the position of the strongest in the empire." Iren still hadn't given up. He stood there saying, "Miss Gloria, are you playing hard to get with me? Unfortunately, you've been seen through half." As Iren spoke, he thought to himself, "Mother is really something telling me to cultivate feelings with my fiancé. Which young lady wouldn't agree to be by my side?" Just as he finished speaking, Gloria said contemptuously, "Playing hard to get." Then she drew her sword and threatened, "A useless young master like you is worthy of being my fiancé." He was a bit frightened and thought, "Is this girl sick?" As she swung her sword, she taunted, "Beat me first, then we'll talk." Iren, somewhat panicked, called out, "Men, come here, drive her away." Just then, someone with a sword blocked Gloria's sword. It was Sarland. He had just appeared to block her sword. Sarland then turned and asked, "Young master, are you all right? Your subordinate has come to save you." Iren angrily retorted, "Who asked you to save me? It's just that I didn't bring my sword. How dare a mongrel mock me?" Gloria immediately changed her tone and said, "Sarland, why are you here?" She went over, linked her arm with his, and said, "Great, come practice swords with me." Sarland humbly said, "Sorry, I have something to do today." Iren, standing in a corner, said angrily, "Why is that Gloria is so close to that bastard, does she?" She pouted and said to him, "Not just anyone has the qualification to practice with me, miss. I advise you to think carefully." Hearing this, he was stunned, thinking, Gloria likes him. He was so angry his hands trembled, and he said, "Sarland, you and my fiancé." Just then Haya arrived and called out, "Iren!" He turned, only managing to call out, "Mother." Iren tried to swallow his anger and said, "So be it. After we get married, I'll slowly straighten her out." Then he turned and walked away, saying, "If Miss Gloria is not in the mood today, then I'll take my leave first." She enthusiastically replied, "Be careful on your way out, no need to see me off." Then Gloria frowned seriously and said, "Now that the obstacle is gone, if you still don't agree with me, I'll take action right now." Sarland helplessly replied, all right, I agree with you, but you also have to agree to one request of mine." She asked curiously, "What is it?" He leaned in and whispered to Gloria, "Recommend me to your eldest brother, Duke Isaac." Night had fallen. Sarland went before Isaac too and said, "I have a way to annul the engagement between Miss Gloria and Iren, but I hope you can lend me the Isaac family's heirloom, the illusory form casket." He looked straight at him and said, "In my previous life, Duke Isaac was not satisfied with the playboy Iren, nor did he want to ally with the Cooper family. He mentioned annulling the engagement many times, but it was always rejected by the royal family. He harbored a somewhat malicious thought. So in this life, I just need to take advantage of it a little." Hearing the proposal from him, Isaac too turned and walked away, saying, "Brat, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. A royal engagement is not something a person like you can annul, and you dare to set conditions with me." Sarland smiled and replied, "A person like me?" Just as he finished speaking, he swung his sword out and challenged, "It's precisely a person like me who can help you solve your difficulties." Isaac too, seeing this sword, was stunned, thinking, "This sword, could it be that the S-rank talent child the Cooper family possesses is him?" Sarland quickly rushed forward and said, "If the engagement cannot be annulled, then eliminating that useless young master isn't that the same? What do you think, Duke Isaac too?" Isaac too still couldn't make a decision. He looked straight at him but couldn't give a specific response. Time passed, and a month later at Haya's castle, Butler Dak approached her and reported, "Madam, everything is ready. It's just that Sarland Cooper is currently not among the illegitimate children. The young master has gone to find him." Haya, hearing this, replied, "I know. Go help the young master." He received her order and said yes. Suddenly, at this moment, the illegitimate children of the Cooper family arrived, looking around, and finally they said to each other, "We really don't know why they called us here. Emphasizing the heir's status, telling us to rest assured and be his dogs, huh?" Who told him to have swordsmanship talent? Destiny has decreed him as the future family head. Shh. You two keep your voices down if the family head hears. Several people followed behind Cooper Leon and said, Family head, the esteemed guests have all taken their seats. To avoid keeping the guests waiting, the banquet has begun according to your instructions. He just calmly replied, Isaac too appeared and said, What a coincidence, Duke Cooper. Let's talk. Seeing him here, Cooper Leon asked with a puzzled expression, Duke Isaac, I don't remember inviting you. Isaac too stood there and said, After all, it's the coming-of-age ceremony of my future brother-in-law. I absolutely must come to liven things up. Outside nearby, Sarland stood listening to the conversation and then said, That's enough. It's time to activate the illusory form casket. The man beside him nodded in agreement and replied, Yes. Suddenly only he was left standing there. But somewhere not far away, a treasure was being enchanted by someone. Abyssal Gate Shadow, weaving heavenly illusion. The illegitimate children of the Cooper family, swords in hand, all faced that treasure and said, Illusory treasure casket, activate illusion. Very quickly, a large amount of magic appeared. It had the shape of a magic array, looking very mysterious and interesting. While Sarland was observing, someone approached and said, Finally found you. Unexpectedly, Iraine suddenly appeared behind him and said, What are you doing hiding here alone? Suddenly, a dark door in the basement opened. Sarland was bound by chains, looking very miserable. Iraine stood before him and said, Sorry. He smiled sinisterly, rushed forward with his sword and said, Your swordsmanship talent is mine too. Quickly, a bright red liquid flowed out. Iraine's voice still echoed, tinged with mockery. This is your end, Sarland. In another aspect, Andrea suddenly screamed in panic, Sarland! She woke up from the nightmare she just had and called out, Sa! Before she could finish, the girl nearby said, All right, stop dozing off. Get up and work. Andrea replied dazedly, Okay. But in her heart, she still felt a little worried and thought, Spiritual power. This isn't a dream. It's the truth of my previous life. Time system spiritual power is one of the talents awakened by mages. Mages who awaken spiritual power can see fragments of time from the past and future. Andrea quickly ran off thinking, Sarland is in danger. She quickly ran to a rather desolate and dark place surrounded by overgrown trees. Andrea looked worried and thought, I have to hurry and stop everything before Iraine acts. Just then she heard someone say, This is the wine Father rewarded me with. Andrea followed the source of the voice and thought, Found him. When she found him there, Andrea quickly attacked and said, Tranquil spirit, light with spiritual energy, fall into a deep sleep. As she finished, she thought to herself, Make Iraine sleep for a few months, then we'll see. Suddenly, someone appeared from behind and shouted, Andrea! It was Haya. Seeing her appear, she quickly ordered, Take her away! Keep the commotion down! The man quickly rushed forward and replied, Yes! Andrea was quickly immobilized. The man covered her mouth tightly, causing her to make a few uncomfortable sounds. Haya stood in a corner watching and thinking, Didn't Dak say the plundering experiment was successful? Why can she still use magic? Puzzled for a moment, she quickly dismissed it and thought further. Forget it. Now is not the time to think about that. The plundering ritual is important. Very quickly, the glass of crimson wine was poured into Sarland's mouth. After drinking it, the glass uncontrollably fell to the ground. Iraine stood there laughing mockingly. You fool! The same trick and you still fell for it twice. Then he became somewhat dissatisfied and shouted, On what basis do you have S-rank talent? He swung his hand and hit Sarland, shouting loudly, On what basis can you obtain the magic dragon? Iraine continued to hit and shout, On what basis does Gloria also like you? He beat him until he coughed up blood, still shouting, All of those things were originally mine. Haya then approached and said, All right, Iren, don't waste words on him. Let's begin. Iren nodded and replied, Yes, mother. Butler Dak brought him a weapon and said, This is a specially made dagger. Even if his body has invincible strength, it can be temporarily broken. Iren took the dagger and said, Not bad. He held the dagger in his hand and threatened, Sorry, your swordsmanship talent is mine now. Iren stabbed Sarland with the dagger and laughed loudly. This is your end, Sarland. Sarland, upon being stabbed, cried out pitifully in pain. Seeing Sarland's suffering, Iren laughed loudly and continued, Cry, scream! From now on, I am the true heir of the Cooper family. I am the one with the highest talent and strength. No one can surpass me. After letting Iren speak for a while, Sarland showed no reaction, his expression just silently looking down. Suddenly, Sarland looked up, laughed loudly, and said, What play are you acting in, young master? Seeing this, both he and Haya were stunned and asked, What? Then he quickly broke free from the chains that had bound him. Sarland sneered and said, Open your eyes wide and see clearly whose end this really is. As he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers. Suddenly, everything around them changed slightly. Haya and Iren looked around and vaguely said, Where is this? Looking closely again, she panicked and said, The banquet hall. The esteemed guests there were all surprised and said, Are they crazy? To do such a thing in front of hundreds of eyes? Is the young master of the Cooper family really that kind of person? In that case, the S-rank swordsmanship talent he was rumored to possess is all fake. It must be. How disgusting a person like that is worthy of being the heir. It would be better to let me do it. Haya was stunned and thought, Impossible. How did that brat know we were going to make a move on him? Wasn't the experiment successful? What exactly went wrong? No, the most important thing now is how to turn this around. Then she and Iren quickly explained, No, everyone has been deceived. It was that mongrel who framed me. That's right. That fellow has always been. At this moment, someone approached, clapping heroically, and praised, What a good show! It was Isaac, too. He turned to Cooper Leon and said, Am I right, Duke Cooper? Seeing this, Cooper Leon's eyes blazed with anger, and he growled, Iren! Iren stammered, Father. Haya hurriedly explained, This was all my idea. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Leon Cooper didn't waste words and directly knocked Iren to the ground. Gila, seeing this, cried out in alarm. Iren? Salin, standing nearby, muttered, Oh, how brutal. Iren, resentful, shouted, What did I do wrong? He's just an illegitimate son. What he has should be mine. Gila sternly reminded Iren, Shut up. People around began to whisper. I remember Duke Cooper's origins weren't exactly... ahem. That year, the Duke rose through his own strength. Although he never shied away from this fact, how could his son point it out in front of outsiders? The Duke values his reputation greatly. Tisk, tisk, truly foolish. Leon drew a long, sharp sword. He sternly asked, Is that so? He pointed the sword directly at Iren and declared loudly, Sons, hear my command. From this day forward, the inheritance competition is initiated. The illegitimate sons of the Cooper family, upon hearing this, were immensely shocked, exclaiming, The inheritance competition. This meant them. Each of them revealed their ambition, arrogantly proclaiming, We all have the right to compete for the heirship. We can use any means without restriction. The winner takes all. Kill Iren first. Kill him. A representative of House Isaac laughed mockingly. So this is the Cooper family's spirit of ultimate power. Today I've finally witnessed it. He then said gravely, But since things have come to this, the engagement between our two families must be called off. I will not marry my sister to such a serial liar, a man with no real strength. Leon glanced at Salon behind him, suspiciously thinking, All these recent events. This is the power of the Phantom Hour box. He must have colluded with this brat. He silently calculated the nobility from all levels are present. Once news reaches the royal family, it will only be detrimental to House Cooper. It's better to take a step back for now and deal with it later. With that thought, Leon approached the Isaac representative and shook his hand calmly, saying, "Rest assured, I will petition the king for a resolution for House Isaac." The representative nodded, as expected of the wise head of House Cooper. He turned and pointed his sword at Salon, sternly warning, "Brat, if you want to fight for the inheritance, that's fine. But you cannot do anything that harms the family's reputation." Leon cautioned, "Otherwise, I will make you disappear from the family." Salon scoffed, "Do you think I care about that inheritance?" He gripped the sword's blade until his hand bled, then pulled it close to his own neck. Salon, with a stern and determined face, said, "If you want to make me disappear, then do it now, father." Leon was somewhat astonished, thinking, "What on earth is this brat thinking?" He sheathed his sword, thinking, "Forget it." Gray asked doubtfully, "Head of the family, are you really not going to discipline him?" Leon calmly replied, "No need. If he truly has the ability, I, on the other hand, look forward to seeing what he can do." He remembered Salon's unpleasant expression and mused, "It's just that brat's personality that is very unsatisfactory. I don't know who he takes after." That evening at the Cooper family castle, Gila furiously shouted, "Who the hell leaked the information? How did that brat find out about our plans?" "Dak." The butler fearfully replied, I don't know about that." A subordinate brought Andrea in and asked, "Madam, how should we deal with this maid?" Gila said sharply, "Feed her to the magical beasts. Why do you even need to ask about such a small—" Her eyes suddenly widened in surprise. She whispered, "Wait." Gila thought suspiciously, she was actually using a magical beast before. If the experiment failed— She turned to look at Dak the butler, muttering to herself, "It hasn't been carried out yet." Gila's eyes glinted maliciously as she snarled, "Dak, didn't you steal her talent? Why don't you demonstrate it for me now?" He stammered in reply, "Her talent is too high. I haven't mastered it yet. Please, madam, give me a little more time." Dak worriedly thought, "Could the madam have seen through it?" She said gravely, "No need." Gila angrily ordered, "Men, execute him on the spot." They replied, "Yes, madam." Dak's eyes widened in shock. He hurriedly shouted, "Madam, please, listen to my explanation. It was Salon Cooper. He forced me." Before Dak could finish, the cold sound of a sword slash echoed, followed by a gush of warm blood. He slowly collapsed. Gila said coldly, "A dog bites its master. The master kills the dog. Does that need an explanation?" She approached Andrea, grabbed her by the neck, and snarled, "As for you, giving me your talent would be putting it to its best use." With that, Gila lifted her, attempting to suppress her with her power. But her magic seemed to have no effect on Andrea. Gila's eyes widened as she thought, "No burns. Could she be of the ice soul physique?" She mused. A woman with the ice soul physique upon maturing becomes a warm bed. A man who becomes her partner can enhance his own strength through her. Gila looked at Andrea's beautiful, pitiful face, silently calculating, if that's the case. Meanwhile, in a room in the castle, Salon was deep in thought. "I never expected that even after fully exposing Iran's worthless talent and despicable character, it wouldn't make the head of the family decide to eliminate him. Is it because he's wary of the power behind Iren's mother?" He pressed his lips together, thinking, "Furthermore, arranging for me to stay in the castle last night. Is he trying to control me, afraid I'll run away, to make that Iren suffer what I went through before I won't leave this place?" Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. He turned his head, wondering. "So early, is it, Andrea?" Salon said softly. "Come in, it's not locked." Gloria Isaac entered excitedly, saying, "I heard you have to return that item today. Since I had some free time, I came over myself." Salon looked at her, frowning, calculating, "If I could get House Isaac's help, perhaps, even if I directly killed Irene, it wouldn't—" Gloria interrupted irritably. "Hey, what are you thinking about? Milady is still standing in front of you." Salon walked over, handed her the box, and said gravely, "I was wondering House Isaac is on par with House Cooper. Why would you treat an artifact that can only control illusions under very strict conditions as a family heirloom?" She took it pleased and said, "Want to know? I won't tell you. Unless—" Gloria thought, "No one really believes that legend. People in noble circles have known about it for a long time. I can use this to make Salon agree to my condition." He didn't say much and immediately made a gesture to see her out, saying, "Then goodbye." She, hearing this, gaped in astonishment. "Huh." Gloria quickly proposed, "Salon, I want to duel you." He just gave a curt, "Oh." A short while later, the two were on the training ground with no one else around. Gloria channeled her strength into her sword and rushed toward Salon. He immediately raised his sword and easily blocked her attack. Salon quickly pushed her sword aside, pointed his own at Gloria, and said indifferently, "You've lost again." She shouted in frustration, "You have no chivalry at all." Salon turned around and said gravely, "You were the one who wanted me to go all out. Besides, according to our agreement, you have to tell me the secret of the Phantom Hour box." Gloria quietly replied, "Actually, it's just a legend. No one knows if it's true or false, and no one has ever verified it." He asked curiously, "What legend?" She pondered for a moment, then calmly recounted, "Legend says that if someone possessing space-time magic with the consent of their spiritual power willingly sacrifices their entire life, they can use the Phantom Hour box to bring someone else back to life." Salon, hearing this, recalled the sad memories of his past life and thought to himself, "So in the previous life, Andrea sacrificed her own life to bring me back. Therefore, in this life, not only must I take revenge, but I also have to take good care of Andrea. I absolutely cannot let that beast Irene have a chance." Suddenly, from outside the door, two subordinates rushed in, announcing, "Young Master Salon, something terrible has happened. Andrea has been captured." Hearing this news, Salon's eyes flashed with anger. He anxiously asked, "Who took Andrea? Speak clearly." They immediately replied, "It was last night, during our operation. Someone saw Miss Andrea being taken away in the forest by servants sent by the Madame Hyla." Gloria, hearing this, added, "If that's the case, this morning in the hallway, I overheard two maids talking. They said Andrea was taken by the young master to be his personal maid, and after she matures, she'll become his concubine." She rubbed her chin, musing. "At the time, I thought young master referred to Salon, but apparently not." He rushed off furiously, shouting, "Irene, you're courting death." Gloria reminded, "You two, what are you standing there for? Hurry and follow him." That look in Salon's eyes isn't one of rescue, it's one of murder. They replied in unison, "Ah, yes." Meanwhile, in Irene's room, he was raging, cursing, "Damn Salon, making me lose face in front of so many nobles. I'll make sure you die a horrible death." Hila's servant tried to placate him. "Young master, please calm down. Didn't the madam say to wait until you mature?" He paid no attention and kicked the servant hard, shouting, "Die for me!" Another servant came and pulled back a curtain. Inside, Andrea was shackled by her neck. He suggested, "Young master, I heard that Salon really likes this Andrea whom the madam captured. Don't you want this girl to pay Salon's debt?" Irene, hearing this, laughed with delight. "You're indeed clever." He quickly rushed towards her with a sick expression, saying, "Andrea, my future concubine, I will definitely teach you to be a proper wanton woman." Andrea thought in fear, "What should I do? My ability to cast spells is sealed. I have no way to resist Salon. Where are you? Come save me." Irene looked at her with a disgusting tone. "Look at this appearance. I wonder what expression he'll have when he sees you serving under my loins." He reached out, about to grab Andrea, and said hoarsely, "Be a good girl and accept your orders to be my concubine." Suddenly, a voice filled with resentment rang out, "Iren!" followed by a powerful punch straight to Iren's cheek. As if that wasn't enough to vent his anger, Salon followed up with another punch, sending him crashing to the floor. Andrea, seeing him, cried out joyfully, "Salon!" He, without any restraint, kicked Iren hard in the groin and snarled, "Die!" Iren immediately clutched his lower body and screamed in pain. Salon didn't stop continuously beating Iren, cursing, "Die-dee!" Instantly, a cracking sound came from Iren's shoulder blade. His ribs were also struck forcefully, causing immense pain. Salon's appearance at this moment was terrifying. A dark aura quickly enveloped him. Iren, seeing this, trembled and said, "Help! Help me!" The subordinates shouted, "Quick! Quick! Save the young master!" Salon instantly gathered a surge of firepower around him and lifted them into the air. Salon's subordinates ran in, saw this, and cried out in alarm, "Young Master Salon, the situation is not good." Gloria slipped behind and quickly undid Andrea's shackles. She urgently prompted, "Quick, Andrea, Salon is about to demonize again." Andrea ran and gently said, She hugged Salon from behind and said loudly, "Salon, calm down. I'm okay." Salon turned to look at her, his voice trembling. "Andrea!" Those subordinates ran to Iren and said, "Quick, take young Master Iren away." At that moment, Gila entered and witnessed her son beaten black and blue. She cried out in alarm, "Iren!" She pointed at Salon and furiously shouted, "Salon, you bastard son! Is this how you repay the kindness your father showed by taking you back into the castle?" Salon didn't reply but slowly placed his hand on his necklace. In an instant, Salon had summoned Blood Drinker and was taking heavy steps towards Gila. Andrea, seeing this, softly called, "Salon." Gila, seeing him approach instinctively, backed away, asking in panic, "Salon, what? What do you want to do?" He slowly drew his sword across his palm. Salon then flicked a drop of his blood onto Iren's head and began the incantation. "I, Salon Cooper, hereby challenge Iren Cooper to a sacred death match, to the death without end." He silently resolved, "I absolutely will not allow this unsettling element that threatens Andrea to continue existing. Never." 7 days later at the martial arena, everyone had gathered to watch the duel. Salon, his face full of confidence, smirked and said, "I'm surprised. You dragged this out for 7 days, yet it wasn't to escape." Hearing this, Iren, not to be outdone directly, summoned a shield and retorted mockingly, "Why would I discard the chance to kill a bedbug like you?" Salon seemed to notice something, frowning slightly as he thought, "That shield, it gives me an unusual feeling." A clear voice rang out, "I declare the duel. Begin." And just like that, as soon as the signal was given, Iren immediately launched an attack, Medusa's petrification gaze. Salon's eyes widened in surprise as he recognized it was indeed Medusa's power. Faced with a series of relentless attacks, he nimbly leaped and dodged, escaping. Iren burst out laughing mockingly. "Ha, so the great golden sword master is just a jumping monkey, huh?" Suddenly, Salon received information. Ranks of magic swordsmen from highest to lowest sword. Saint Golden Sword, Master Silver Sword Guardian, Iron Sword, Apprentice. In this urgent situation, he suddenly pondered, the Shadow Oath won't just make me immune to Medusa's attacks. This abnormal petrification state isn't even considered damage. There's no way to shift it with the Shadow Oath. However, one thing is certain, I must destroy that shield. Iren, having gained a slight advantage, prattled on. "Salon, you didn't expect this, did you? Stealing my Perseus sword actually allowed me to obtain the Medusa shield. This is the difference between a child of destiny and a defiant one." Salon, disregarding the danger, dashed towards his opponent with lightning speed, yet still dodged attacks with precision. Irene, however, completely ignored this sneering, useless. Seeing Salon leap up, swinging his sword back to prepare an attack, Iren shouted, summoning Medusa. Just as Salon predicted, Iren smugly used it as a shield. Irene thought with satisfaction, "This is what I was waiting for." Since fate has given Salon this stage, why not perform? Salon quickly rushed forward and with one slash shattered the shield, causing green liquid to splatter everywhere. Salon then arrogantly raised his sword. His spirit sword seemed to merge with the blood. He merely opened his mouth, "You." His entire body was enveloped in a terrifying aura as he charged, snarling, "Die!" With that, Salon at a mind-boggling speed lunged and slashed across Irene's body, shattering a ring on Irene's finger. At this, the corner of Irene's mouth involuntarily curled into a derisive sneer. "Almost forgot I'm also a golden high mage now." Next, Irene snarled, "Devour them all, wailing souls." They were part of a dark magic soul-devouring curse. Lord Isaac, angered by this despicable tactic, cursed, "Beast." Gloria Isaac, not understanding, asked her brother. He directly explained, "That is a vile dark magic. It requires the souls of 1,000 commoners who died in agony to be forged." She couldn't help but exclaim in shock, "What?" Hearing these words, Leon Cooper frowned, displeased, and reminded, "I need an explanation. This is a secret of my family. Duke Isaac, please be mindful of noble traditions." The Duke snorted coldly. Facing the assault of the wailing souls, Salon remained calm and directly confronted them. This only made Irene mock him further. "Foolish, not even trying to dodge, then suffer and cry to your heart's content." His smug expression suddenly turned to bewildered shock. He continuously shook his head in denial. "Useless. No, impossible, it can't be. I've experimented with this technique hundreds of times. No one can easily dispel it without being tainted by the wailing souls." Then Irene became even more convinced of his thoughts and directly shouted an order, "Low life, die for me!" As Salon expected, the wailing souls quickly swarmed towards him, determined to finish him off at Irene's command. Yet despite all his schemes, Irene couldn't do anything to Salon. He shook his head in terror, thinking, "Impossible. How can my attack have no effect?" By now, Salon had no more patience for Irene. He sternly reminded him, "You've struggled enough. Now you can die." Irene quickly used his shadow body technique to transfer damage. However, he was far from afraid and casually laughed mockingly. "Fool, you are my shadow. How can you hurt me?" Indeed, everyone's eyes widened in astonishment at Salon's attack, exclaiming in terror, "Ah, what is this? How is this possible?" In that moment, Salon couldn't help but blame himself. "Damn it, I forgot the shadow oath on him will automatically transfer fatal damage to his shadow double." Irene continued to mock him. "You actually care about the lives of those street rats. Ha! Dark magic scepter life drain. It absorbs the life force of others to attack a target. If the target's life force is lower than the life force collected by the scepter, they die instantly." This was an extremely vicious dark magic. Salon pondered, "Although I don't know why it seems the shadow oath on him has lost its effect. But he absolutely will not escape this magic." Looking at the suffering people continuously screaming, Irene revealed a sinister smile and decided, if that's the case, then using their lives to activate the magic scepter will do just fine. As soon as Irene brandished the scepter, everyone suffered a significant impact. They all clutched their chests in pain, kneeling in agony, crying, "My life force!" Andrea also screamed in terror, "Lucian Renal, what's wrong with you two?" Irene, holding the life scepter, laughed cruelly and jeered, "This look of yours! Have you given up resisting a pity? Even so, I won't forego punishing these low-lifes." This caused Salon to frown, his anger pushed to the extreme by Irene's arrogant and condescending nature. He slammed his sword into the ground. Finally, before the tens of thousands present, he powerfully declared, "I, Salon, refuse to become a beast like you." Then he closed his eyes, focusing on calming himself to deploy the forbidden blood magic formation. A moment later, fiery blood-like rays of power, showing Salon's somewhat overwhelming strength, directly confronted Irene, causing him to exclaim in shock, "What?" The surrounding crowd, witnessing this spectacular display, looked on with excitement and admiration, cheering, "Ah, he's back! He's back! It's Boss Salen! Long live Boss Salen!" However, just as they were excitedly chattering, the clear blue sky suddenly trembled violently. A jet-black shadow dragon with a majestic and imposing aura soared through the air as if tearing it apart. It let out a powerful, imposing roar and positioned itself behind Salen. Looking at him, it declared indifferently, "Enjoy it while you can still breathe. This will be your last breath, Iron." The shadow dragon roared, continuously spewing fire, then placed a claw on Salan's shoulder. Salen couldn't help but chuckle, asking, "So you're this furious too, huh?" Lord Isaac was also stunned by its grand appearance, exclaiming in terror, "The legendary dragon armament. It's real." These words also made Gloria Isaac unable to hide her bewildered shock, asking, "Brother, what are you saying?" At this, he had no choice but to recount everything he knew to her. According to legend, if a demon dragon clan member can achieve sufficient spiritual resonance with their master under the strong influence of emotions, they can complete a transformation of their form, significantly increasing the master's abilities. The dragon's strength and majesty are manifested everywhere on its body, from its sturdy shoulders to its sharp claws, the powerful armor on its arms, and a sharp sword. All these elements have been gathered to create an unprecedented phenomenon. That is called demon dragon armament. Among those shocked by this event, Iren was no exception, his jaw dropping in horrified denial. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Even if that beast allowed it, you two could never achieve spiritual resonance. Even at this moment, he didn't know when to retreat and stubbornly tried to unleash another technique to display his power. It must be an illusion. Watch me defeat you. Great curse art. However, before Iren's wailing souls or techniques could even manifest their power, they had already fallen under the shadow dragon's claws, unbeknownst to him. Salen, already in his armed state and ready for battle, declared sternly, "What allowed us to achieve spiritual resonance was our shared fury towards you." As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly lunged forward with powerful, skilled slashes and movements as swift as a storm continuously rushing forward. In an instant, Salen had aggressively stepped forward to confront Iren directly. This caused Iren, even while holding the life scepter, to be unable to avoid feeling flustered and anxious. Swish. One of his arms was severed from his body, and he screamed in fear and pain. "Ah, it hurts!" Salen then interrogated him fiercely. "This sword strike is for the innocent people whose talents you stole." Hila, seeing her precious son being brutally thrashed, couldn't bear the pain and shot up anxiously, yelling, "Iren!" But she was quickly and sternly reminded by Leon Cooper, "Sit down." Iren never imagined, not in 1,000 lifetimes, that Salen possessed such great ability. He knelt on the ground in agony, his voice trembling, unable to form words. "You, mongrel, you dare, you dare." But this was just the appetizer Salen had prepared for him. There were still many surprises to come. He quickly moved to his next target. Unsurprisingly, another painful blow landed, accompanied by Salen's cold voice. "For the shadow doubles who had to die because of you. For my past life's talent that you stole and exploited until death." Salen's eyes narrowed slightly, like a judge pronouncing sentence to execute Iren. "For everything you have done in the past, present, and future, finally carrying the burning flames of long-held grudges and animosities, he swung his sword and lunged. Go to hell, Iren." However, just as those grudges seemed about to be settled, a sudden throw knocked Salen's sword off course. Leon Cooper, seeing Hila recklessly intervene in the battle, was displeased and warned, "Hila, what do you think you're doing? This is the most sacred death match within our Cooper family." Iren, meanwhile, was moaning incessantly, "It hurts so much." Seeing her brazenness, Lord Isaac couldn't help but mock sarcastically, "Madam Hyla truly worthy of being the once dazzling S-rank mages. What a pity that after marrying Leon Cooper I never saw her fight again. I never expected to have the honor of witnessing it today." It didn't stop there. Whispers and murmurs also buzzed in her ears. Releasing an 8-layered divine magic shield also requires the help of an artifact. Could the rumor that the madam assassinated the previous family head, then suffered a magical backlash and collapsed, be true? Shh, watch the show. Just as expected, Hyla clasped her hands and summoned a 9-layered holy white magic mother of sanctity, along with a voice tinged with regret and sarcasm. "If I had known you would turn into such a monster, I should have killed you when you were still in diapers. Now I will have to correct my mistake. Today, you will die here." Salon, already accustomed to her personality, merely tilted his head slightly, glancing at her without a trace of fear. Seeing the dark aura surrounding Hyla and Salon's readiness to fight Leon Cooper, furiously roared, "Stop it, all of you!" Finally, she didn't stubbornly provoke him further and retracted the weapon she had just summoned. Salon did the same, instantly reverting from his armed state to his original form, his expression not very pleased. Only Lord Isaac, still standing in a corner, stroked his chin, exclaiming in admiration, "As expected of Leon Cooper, the Sword Saint. This triple forbidden seal truly is invincible." As they stopped, Leon Cooper also strode forward. He needed to distinguish right from wrong and directly declared with a stern face, "The Cooper family does not welcome you. Take your people and leave." This made Salon cry out in indignation, "Father, head of the family, you will regret this." However, after Hyla saw him brutalize her son, she couldn't hold back any longer. "Leon Cooper, let me kill him." But he surprisingly pointed at her and coldly demanded, "Before I regret it, get out of my territory." Just like that, Salon had nothing more to say. He led his people away, saying indifferently, "Let's go." Under the clear blue sky and the shining sun, they left that place full of turmoil together. Salon began somewhat awkwardly, "Lord Isaac, actually, you don't need to leave with us." But the man laughed and replied, "Brat, you talk big, interested in joining House Isaac." This made Salon exclaim, "Oh, sir, you don't mind my status as an exile. You want to confront House Cooper." Salon's words made Lord Isaac look back in astonishment, disbelieving his ears. However, refusal didn't mean the end. Salon suggested, "Sir, although I cannot join your family, I can make a deal with you." Lord Isaac, intrigued, asked, "Oh, how so?" So Salon spoke directly, "The king is gravely ill. A war among the nobility is imminent. If I can successfully enter the Imperial Academy, perhaps you will be the first to know the latest news from the capital." The man, as if Salon had hit a nerve, asked with interest, "You're quite a schemer. You want me to help you get into the Imperial Academy? On what grounds should I believe you?" Hearing this, an idea flashed in Salon's mind. He smirked coldly. "If my swordsmanship talent is S rank, then it's time to use my trump card." Next, Salon boldly declared as a firm guarantee, "Based on the fact that I can become the closed-door disciple of the hidden sword St. Chris." This made Lord Isaac a bit skeptical. Really, that Chris? At that moment, in some corner, Chris was slumped against a door, drinking away his sorrows. However, his sixth sense seemed to tell him someone was mentioning him. He let out a lazy burp and cursed, "Damn it, which brat is talking behind my back?" Hidden Sword. St. Chris, 47 years old. Realm, titled Sword Saint. Title hidden. Sword style, silent sword. School's characteristic fast sword. The sword is drawn faster than sound, and the blade arrives before the sound of the sword. Outwardly, he uses swordsmanship for assassination, but in reality he is very fierce and powerful. He often kills with overwhelming force, piercing armor and slaughtering. Outwardly loose, inwardly seemingly unrestrained, but in reality he is a cautious person who never easily trusts others. position leader of the king's private assassination corps. Hobbies: drinking, disguising, frequently drunk, gambling. Many days later, in the outskirts of St. Golden City, Salon directly introduced to Lord Isaac. See that the 3 towers ahead are the strongest shield of St. Golden City, the Holy Trinity magic towers. Seeing them means St. Golden City is not far off. Before leaving, he didn't forget to remind, "Let me tell you, St. Golden City is full of ordinary nobles. You need to be careful outside the academy." Salon kept looking at the city, incessantly feeling a growing suspicion in his heart, reassuring himself, "This guy isn't trustworthy. For the benefit of his family, he's capable of many backstabbing actions. I have to do this myself. Find an opportunity to escape the troops." While on the road, Lord Isaac steadfastly assured, "Salon, rest assured I will definitely handle the matter of the Imperial Academy. Miss Andrea will have to endure a little hardship and enroll as your attendant. That way the 2 of you can be together legitimately. As for your guards, arrange for them to stay comfortably at our Isaac family estate. They can also help protect the estate a bit, fight off some bandits or something." Hearing this, a glimmer of hope flashed in Salon's eyes. He thought, bandits near the imperial capital, and there are still bandits. An opportunity. Lord Isaac, afraid Salon might misunderstand, explained, "They're called bandits, but they're actually reactionary nobles from St. Golden City. Very difficult to deal with." But Salon resolutely replied, "Leave the bandits to me." This made Lord Isaac ask with confusion, "Then what about Andrea?" Salon spurred his horse, galloping into the forest without looking back, calling out, "Andrea, I'll trouble Sir to take her to the Imperial Magic Academy first." Gloria Isaac, also bewildered by this impulsive action, called out to her brother. He sighed helplessly and replied, "Let's go back to the estate first. Arrange for that brat's subordinates." A short while later, Salon was deep in the mountains, standing there pensively observing. Based on his vague memories, he rested his chin in his hand and thought, in Angela's own description from the previous life, she was only about 7 years old at this time, secretly imprisoned in the bandits' lair. Salon then jumped down. More importantly, her father Chris has always been searching for her. For her sake, he's willing to pay any price. With this valuable information, he became even more convinced, as long as I can save Angela, I can smoothly become Chris's disciple. Thus, he became even more determined to carry out this plan to the end. He quickly switched to his armed state, preparing to fight these arrogant bandits. Not far away, they were actively training, enhancing their combat endurance. However, a giant shadow suddenly appeared above their heads, making one of them look up in confusion. Yet everything happened in an instant. Before those bandits could even react, Salon had sent them to the afterlife with a single sword strike. This was one of his ultimate techniques, named Inherited Sword Art First Form Bloodlight Skimming Shadow. Another group, ferociously gripping their weapons in front of Salon, charged forward. He used Inherited Sword Art Second Form Blood Serpent's Wild Feast, his slashes sharp, fast, and powerful like a python with its jaws wide open, swallowing them whole. At this moment, the bandit leader Pulong appeared, looking at Salon with eyes full of hatred, shouting, "Who dares to be so arrogant? Die!" Then, without another word, he leaped forward and slashed down. But Salon quickly blocked him with his sword. Salon then jumped into the air, creating distance from Pulong, and quickly executed Inherited Sword Art. Third Form Blood Shadow Slash. Hearing the name of the technique, the bandit leader's eyes widened in terror. He turned back trembling and said, Blood Shadow Slash. You're from the Cooper family. Do you know who we—" But before he could finish his sentence, Salon delivered a fatal blow, finishing him off quickly and efficiently. Suddenly, streaks of red light violently emerged. They then rapidly transformed into a specific shape. Salon coldly swept his gaze over these bandits and sneered derisively, "A bunch of beasts, your crimes are piled high. I don't care who you are." At this moment, Mio, having returned from scouting, chirped G to signal Salon. As Salon turned his head, It affectionately nuzzled against him, making him chuckle and ask, "What's wrong? Did you find what I asked you to find?" Looking at its expression, Salon had already guessed. He let it fly up, saying, "Lead the way." Following Mio's clues, he followed its guidance to the location. Salon carefully scouted the entrance. Finally, the door opened. He stood proudly under the brilliant light, slowly approaching. As Salon walked, he carefully observed the entrance and quickly approached the target inside. Angela, seeing someone enter, tilted her head innocently and asked, "Are you a good person? Are you here to save me?" Salon thought to himself. Angela once said that since she was young, she could tell if someone was lying just by glancing at them. She could sense whether the person had good or evil intentions, so I must tell the truth. Therefore, he bluntly replied, "I've come to take you to find your father so he can teach me swordsmanship." After checking and confirming, she had her answer. She smiled happily, extended her hand, and said, "You're not lying. Then let's go." With Angela's trust. Salon didn't hesitate, and immediately carried her out. However, before they had taken a few steps, his eyes suddenly glinted thoughtfully. "I'm afraid we can't leave just yet." Just as they began their plan, they were blocked at the door by a ferocious skeleton exuding an overwhelming, murderous aura glaring at them. Salon instructed Angela, "Angela, that thing outside has terrifying energy. I can only block its attack once. When I rush out to attract its attention, you must run for your life, understand?" She replied, He observed the skeleton and thought, "A 4-meter-tall giant skeleton. Its attack power is comparable to a sword saint. This one must be nearly 5 meters. Salon then taunted, "Shadow Dragon, this time we really have to risk our lives." He drew his sword, took a stance, and instructed Angela, "Get ready." She replied, ready to attack, "Don't worry, big brother, I'm ready." Salon took a deep breath. Instantly, he and the skeleton clashed. The skeleton swiped its giant, sharp-clawed hand forward. Salon blocked its claws with his sword and shouted, "Die now! Angela, quickly!" Seeing the skeleton, she panicked, turned her back, and screamed. Salon smiled calmly and said, "The dragon armament has one more trick. It's a good time to test its power." Then he shouted, "Shadow Dragon!" A powerful aura emanated from Salon's sword. It created a massive shockwave, pushing the skeleton back. Salon then called out the technique, Armor Purge. A notification panel appeared. Shadow Dragon Armor Purge forcibly dispels dragon armament. Remaining magic power creates a powerful shockwave. Salon stood tall and declared boldly, "Just a giant skeleton. How can it stop my steps of revenge?" He looked at Angela, who was fleeing, and thought, "Now I just need to get Angela out of here." The skeleton chased Angela, spitting out a bolt of lightning, and shouted, "Die!" Immediately after, a large explosion occurred where she was. Salon screamed, "Angela!" A pair of wings appeared. It turned out a monstrous bird had snatched Angela and flown high, saving her life just in time. The bird, grimacing under Angela's weight, couldn't bear it anymore and dropped her. Salon was already positioned below to catch her. He quickly carried Angela, dodging the skeleton's attacks. Salon ran desperately, worried. "Damn it! The magic formation is closed. I have to destroy the core of the formation to get out." In this precarious situation, he told himself, "But now that monstrous thing is chasing us, there's no time to observe the formation and find its core." Angela, who was clinging to his neck, asked, "Big brother, you said the core of the formation is a very important place, right? A place no one is allowed near." Salon replied with a question. "That's right. Do you know where it is?" Angela pointed towards a distant door and revealed, "When they let me out to move around, there were 3 places they didn't let me near. That's over there." He replied, "All right, let's go check it out." Salon changed direction and ran towards it, saying, "Although this beast's energy is strong, unfortunately its speed is slow. From a distance, it can only use its bone cannon." He ran for his life, shouting, "But now I don't have the dragon armament. If I get hit, I'll be seriously injured." At this time, Salon's group had entered the door. He looked around and said, This room is reinforced, but it probably won't last too long. Suddenly, Angela's eyes lit up. She unconsciously said, "Big brother, that tree over there seems to be calling me." Salon carried Angela closer to the lightning magic orb and said, "All right, let's see." A stream of lightning shot out from Angela's hands, making Salon look on curiously. Finally, she had summoned a bow. Salon asked, "Is this Sai's blessing?" Angela urgently prompted him, "That's right, big brother. That monster's about to catch up. Let's hurry to the next place," he replied. "Okay." Angela raised the bow forward, guiding Salon. "Big brother, another place is just ahead." Behind them, the skeleton was chasing. He ran into a room. Salon's footsteps created sparks of lightning that traveled to a large black orb inside. He exclaimed, "Found it! This is the place!" Salon looked at the black orb with a purple flame inside it, hovering above a circular magic formation. He was stunned in disbelief. "Impossible. This is..." A scattered skeleton appeared, a fierce demonic aura radiating from it. Only then did Salon realize and shout, "The mage who set up that formation activated this giant skeleton to self-destruct." He put Angela down and carefully instructed her, "Angela, after I use my technique, I might lose my senses. If I have to attack you, you must find a way to protect yourself well." She replied, "Yes, don't worry. Angela trusts you." Salon drew his sword and used inherited sword art 4th form. Behind him, a sword demon was summoned. He thought to himself, "I can only use that." Salon swung his sword at the pulsating egg-like object.